Hey, Gabriel,
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
where are we today?
Well, I'm in the Tenderloin. You're in Nob Hill.
You are living the dream life of the
I
Tenderloin.
am. I am. Today, the homeless people took a giant queen-size mattress into the alley, and there have been different homeless people just relaxing and enjoying the wonderful weather on the queen-size mattress.
Could you actually just drive your car away or not? Or they're like just blocking your alley?
No. It was on the sidewalk of the alley.
Oh,
so
okay. Well, good for them.
it's fine. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy for whoever got to enjoy it. It was like 75 degrees today, so.
Wow, was it that hot?
It was warm. I went to brunch, and the part of the table that was in the sun was super hot.
Wow. Yeah, I went to the Golden Gate Park, and it's like it usually takes me a while to start feeling warm, and it was like just about to die. I mean, not about to die, but it was like after a while, I just walking, I started feeling like a bit more agitated. Like that, this is warm weather, and it's great that we live in a city that is still in February. You can get warm weather while the rest of the country is freezing to death.
I'm not complaining, but also I would like it to be overcast and gray. So whatever.
And talking about overcast and gray, what did we watch today?
We watched the 1973 Asian film Lady Snowblood that heavily inspired Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah, I like that you come up with qualificatives for some of the movies that we watch, and this one, the only qualificative is Asian. That's a qualificative for Asian. Yeah, a qualificative for Asian. And I think that this was my pick.
It was your pick. Absolutely.
Yeah, this was my pick, and I like from time to time when I tell people I have a podcast. I don't know. I think that a part of me still thinks that subconsciously that this makes me cool, but at the same time, it's like there is nothing cool about what we're doing here. That we're just nerding out about cinema. And I think that we had like a bit of a good banter. But in any case, I like to mention this, and from time to time, people tell me is that, oh, did you watch something completely random like Diva? That we talk about is like half a year ago, that in pandemic years it feels like 15 years.
Yeah.
But this was actually like some weeks ago. Someone mentioned, oh, if you like Tarantino, if you like Kill Bill, and you have never watched this movie, you should give it a try. So I was just curious because it's like I knew of some of the how do you say, of the influences that go into Tarantino cinema, but it's like I wanted to actually just have like a movie that you could see like one-to-one exactly. It's like, oh, he actually made a homage to this scene on this.
And he definitely did that with a lot of the scenes in this film. I honestly was a little bit disappointed, like, oh, he just took the scene exactly and put it with Uma Thurman, so...
But couldn't you agree that that makes everything better? You have Uma Thurman in it?
Yeah, absolutely. When Quentin Tarantino is directing Uma Thurman, it's like the definition of synergy. They're both more than the sum of their parts, because Uma Thurman in a romantic comedy is not the bride in Kill Bill Volume 1 or 2.
or the wife in Nymphomaniac. That I still think that is a... Those 10 minutes.
You show the children the whoring bed?
Yep, that scene is still like the best. Like, okay, let me clear. I have put like with 4 hours of bullshit, but it's like those 10 minutes have been glorious.
Worth it.
Yep. But in any case, we are not talking about that today, about Lars von Trier. For once, I think that we can leave him out of this. So, as this was my pick, and I already said why I picked it, I think that it's your turn to give me a summary. What was it about?
So the film follows Miko. Is that her name?
Miko, yeah.
It follows kind of Miko. So Miko's mother was in prison, and you'll have to forgive me because I've watched like 5 hours of Twin Peaks since I watched Lady Snowblood. Why was she in prison?
She was in prison because she was like wrong. Well, no, she was not wrong convicted. She murdered one of the attackers. So
Okay,
it's like, yeah, you have to take a step back about like the tragedy of the mother.
Yeah, so the mother was out of town. So she was somewhere where a bunch of nasty men came and attacked her and some other people, I think her village, right? And they raped her. I mean, this is very subtle since this movie is from 1973. They don't show any of that. The movie is not subtle, just that what actually happened to the mom isn't really shown.
Well, I mean, there is no like completely explicit, like penetration or anything like that, but it's like pretty clear that those four guys are having their way. Well, three guys are having their way with her.
Yeah. So she ends up murdering one of them. So she goes to jail. She's pregnant from the rape.
No.
And
she's not pregnant from the rape. She's not pregnant. And that's like one of the things I love that part. That is like the rest of the prisoners hates her because she's like just basically seducing all the male guards and just having sex with them because she wants.
Oh, that's right.
She's like I love like like how Tarantino also gets like this from this movie and other movies about like that desire of revenge that is so visceral, so raw that is like. I am fine with just being, like abused by all these guys because the only thing that I want is like just getting pregnant so someone can carry my vengeance.
That's right. So she's desperate to have a child. She ends up getting pregnant from one of the prison guards.
Yeah.
She dies shortly after childbirth, but she ends up telling all the women around her and her baby that your entire purpose in life is to get revenge for this horrible thing that happened to me. And right after she gives the speech to her child and to everyone, and all the women are like, no, you can't do this. This is terrible. She ends up dying. And then we see Miko as an adult. And Miko, sorry.
We see her as a child training.
Where she's trained by a master in some sort of Asian martial arts. I don't think they talk about one.
Yeah.
But he's super brutal. She's just a child. He does things like he puts her in a barrel and kicks her down a hill and tells her like, you better not get like kicked out of this barrel.
Yeah.
And you see her progressing very, very similar to how Uma Thurman progresses when she's studying at the Chinese ancient master. I mean, some of the scenes are like
1-to-1.
Yeah, like the little girl is like backed up against a tree and the master's like attacking her and hitting both sides of her head. I mean, there's a lot of scenes that he just ripped off or did an homage to straight from this film.
I think that he was like really inspired. I don't think that it's like just this movie because something that I wanted to just mention later is that this feels exactly what it is. It's like a 70s action movie.
Yeah, it's like martial arts, slasher, revenge flick. I mean, I was honestly reminded a lot about Grindhouse because you remember the Grindhouse films?
It was Planet Terror and Death Proof.
Planet Terror and then the one with all the women and the car.
Yeah, Death Proof.
Death Proof, yeah. It reminded me a little bit of that like super gritty 70s style, like revenge, super satisfying, but also not a ton to the story. And just like Kill Bill, the story jumps around a tremendous amount in terms of like what point in time you're witnessing. But if we talk about it chronologically, we see the girl getting trained, then we see her as an adult, and she tracks down four of the men who were part of the attack against her mother? Or three?
All the people, that they are like 3 guys and a woman.
Yeah, yes.
I'm just counting. So.
And it is a little bit confusing because it's not chronological. Like you keep jumping around back and forth. And so some of the details are a little bit confusing, but the majority of the film is her tracking down and killing these people who wronged her mother.
Yeah.
And the style is very, very much like Quentin Tarantino's style. Like I don't like to say that because his style is like this movie, but if you were to watch this film and you've seen Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, you would be like, oh, I get it. Like hand in hand, these movies go together.
Yeah, no, definitely. But it's like I don't think that is exactly, like Quentin Tarantino's style or this movie style. Is like some weeks ago I was watching, I don't know why I ran into Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. That is also from this year, 73. Funny enough, the same year.
Same year, yeah.
And it's like the style is basically the same, you know. And it's a movie that it was actually directed by an American director. But it's that there is like the same. The what?
Enter the Dragon was?
Yeah. Wow. No, I think it was like his debut on the American cinema for Bruce Lee. And I remember like some of the elements are like basically the same, you know, like the same kind of, okay, if I want to give trauma, I'm going to be like showing the scene from afar, you know, and then I'm going to be like doing this zoom to the face like really, really quickly, you know, that it feels like super tacky nowadays, except if Tarantino does it, that is like, this is cool, but otherwise it's like, this is pretty cheap way of just building anything. And the special effects are the same.
Move. It's such a 70s move to have a super far out shot and then to zoom in incredibly far onto characters. I don't know why.
Yeah. And so I can just picture it in Kill Bill with the master when he's like just from afar and then just like zoom to his face and he starts like just doing this with the beer. Like just playing with it. Exactly. And but it's like what I realized is that this is not, I don't think that Lady Snowblood, it was like the one that created that aesthetic or anything like that. It's like I just think that is gorgeous from a visual aspect, but it's just consistent with everything else that it was just being shot during that time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it established an entire style or genre, but I would probably argue that it's one of the best of style and genre. And I will say that as a film overall, I did enjoy it, but I found a lot of problems with it, and I don't know if it's like valid to hold, for instance, that film to the standards of special effects today. But there were like many things that were so obviously poorly done in the film that I was like, this completely takes me out of it. So like at some point she kills, I think it's the drunken dad on the cliff, and she goes to drag the body, but she's clearly not even pulling the body. Somebody is pushing the body on screen, and nothing visually about it makes sense. Yeah. And I feel like that's just like shitty filmmaking.
I think that this is not an extremely high budget movie. That's my feeling. Because something else is that during that time, and there's something that I would like to know like a bit more about Japanese cinema, but the feeling that I have is that during the 70s, there is a lot of samurai. I mean, just look at Kurosawa. Is that basically most of his cinema is like just period pieces about samurais. So
the only Kurosawa film I've seen is about the civil servant from like the 50s. So did he make samurai films?
So Yojimbo, the Seven Samurais, come on, don't shocking me. But
no, I mean, I know he made samurai films, but I've only seen one of his films, and it was the one you and I watched together.
So I'm going to say something. I don't know exactly how this is going to be aging once that if we ever like go back and listen to our own podcast, but I think that samurai cinema was to Japan like what musicals are for India. That is like, we can't avoid making them. It's something that we can't fight it. So I had the feeling that for them it was like just their second nature about like, these are the stories that we made. This is what people like to watch. So it was like, almost like, you know, also like in the States for a while, Westerns, they had like a lot of relevance. And I think that period, that love period with Westerns is something that lasted significantly longer with samurais in Japan. So I think that is similar to during that time, probably you could have like very easy and very cheap ways of making Westerns because of the stages were already made, you know, there were already like plenty of resources already prepared for telling a story that it was a Western. I mean, in this case, I had the feeling that it's a bit more of a, we didn't have like a lot of budget, but it was a samurai movie, so that's cheap because there's a lot of stuff already prepared.
Yeah, I can see that. And there was a lot I was willing to forgive because I'm like, okay, this movie is 40 years old or 50. It's 50 years old. Oh my God.
Yep. Time flies when you're in a pandemic.
Unfortunately, this film cannot be spoken about without speaking about Kill Bill. And I will say that the way that Quentin Tarantino was able to establish characters in Kill Bill is like remarkable. We remember all of the people that she kills because he establishes them as these like unique characters that are so powerful that I admire his filmmaking skills, and it also made this film a little bit pale in comparison because she went chasing after these 3 men and the 1 woman, and none of them stood out as distinct characters to me.
No, they were just evil people. And one of them is supposed to be dead. And of course, spoiler alert, he wasn't. So, but the thing is that even when he comes back, he almost feels like a parody about like, they thought that I was dead. But no, I was actually smuggling weapons and drugs into the country because I'm evil and that's what I do. Do you want to partake on that with me? Because his son is alive. But that's something that I actually enjoy. And also like in Kill Bill, I can see this, like, yeah, you were trying to do the same, that is like the generational, like taking over, like the next generation, like being present here too. From the perspective that both the bride and Black Mamba was the bride. That I remember, like the first one that I saw is like, I was the only black person and they give you the Black Mamba name to you. Lots of one. But I don't remember what's her called name, but we see the daughter. That is more or less the same daughter, the same age as the bride daughter. But we can see that there is a bit more of a generational pass, the baton. And here we can see that 3 out of the 5 people that are involved on this story, they had kids.
Yeah, that's true. And I think they spend a lot of time examining like what your responsibility is to your elders and also what elders pass along to the next generation. And I would say in the Japanese culture, it's like you're just kind of stuck with this like like whatever you inherit, you're just like fucked. You have to repeat that. Or in the case of the man who published the newspaper, he took a stand against his father, and then died.
But he dies. He actually gets murdered by his father. And actually, the first woman that I also like, and I feel like a bit curious about it. There was a second part of this, but the story ends up with she dying after fulfilling her revenge. She gets killed by the daughter of the guy that does the bamboo wives. I love that concept. And I want one. I even like just checking Amazon, but no one made that thing. No.
Did you search bamboo husbands? Because maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe exactly. We are more progress now. Yeah, but I think that is that part I really appreciate it. It's about like it's a bit more of all of these people. Most of these people are like just living because of a terrible thing that happened 20 years in the past, and they are like just dictating all their actions because of that. That is similar what the bride is doing when she actually just comes back from the coma. Is that the only purpose on her life is just getting revenge. Until the end, she doesn't know that she has a daughter. So for her, it's like, if I can kill Bill and then die, I'm absolutely fine with it.
But in Kill Bill, do you feel like there's any of this generational, you have to take on this vendetta, or I'm passing along this vendetta to you as the next generation?
She does a bit of that, with the first one that she kills. Is that the daughter, she actually tells him, it's like, one day when you're old enough, you're going to have vengeance and you're going to be like coming to me. And I think that is a bit more of building up on this kind of revenge stories that they are like multi-generational, like this one. But he doesn't, and there was like even like rumors that there was going to be a spin-off about the daughter. Not the bride daughter, but the daughter.
Vivica Fox's daughter.
Exactly. Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, overall, it's a fun movie to watch. It's like, again, I would say it's like a grindhouse film, one of these 70s films. It's super, super graphic, but in like an absurd cartoonist sort of way.
That everyone has.
There are some scenes that made me squirm because they're pretty well done, and it just feels a little too graphic.
Like, for example?
I'm trying to think there was one, she kills one guy and the blood is just like squirting out of his chest and it covers her in blood, much like Kill Bill. Again, it's kind of cartoonish, but it's still graphic. And I would say we actually watched this film because you, as someone who likes to tell people you have a podcast, correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody said, well, did you watch any serious films? And then,
no. This was a different person. This was a different person.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, whoever said this is a serious film, this is not a serious film.
This was basically someone that was telling me that he likes trashy Japanese cinema or B-series Japanese cinema. And when I asked, he said, can you recommend me something? Because I don't know if I ever watched any. He recommended this. And he told me, like, with a forewarning about, like, these people like look up to this or they watch it nowadays because of the influence that it had over Kill Bill. And I think that it's a movie that it actually just holds its weight by its own. It doesn't need to actually just be compared. So if we were in a world, in a saddest incarnation of this world where we don't have Kill Bill, it's like, I would have still like watched this and say like, this has been super enjoyable. It's not like a movie that it redefined everything, but it's super enjoyable. I had like a great time watching it. The action is good. I also think that it's like I love this kind of gory aspect about like the buckets of blood. Is like we are not humans. We are just containers of blood that is going to be like splashing if someone cuts it. I like that. I love, for example, like the scene when he, the guy that makes the bamboo wives, he dies on the water. You know, and is that you can see like the water that is like just flashing on him is like completely red on blood. That is like I'm not sure if that's how it works if you're like bleeding out in there, but it is good. It is good. I'm fine with it.
I would agree. I think there's not a lot that's super realistic here, but it's very, very fun. It's fun to watch. I agree with you. In a world without Kill Bill, this would still be a film worth watching. Do I think it's an important film? I don't think so. Do I think it's particularly well done? I don't think so. But it's still a very fun film to watch.
I think that there is this thing that I don't think that it's like glorifying violence, but it's making the violence beautiful. You know, that there is some kind of beauty on how he uses the blood, you know, how the shots are displayed, or about like the blood like going into the snow. It's almost poetic, let's say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's unpleasant to watch, but it's also like, it's so dramatic how they portray everything that you're like, oh yeah, this is compelling. It's compelling to watch this violence, whereas it's not compelling to watch the violence in, you know, Saw.
No, that's like yeah. So it's like the violence here is not designed with the idea of making you feel bad about it. It's designed to almost like just cheer for the main character. That is exactly the same situation as in Kill Bill.
Yep. Yeah.
That you want the bride to actually torture everyone and make it suffer.
And it's that like that way where when she cuts off the top of Lucy Liu's head, if that was done by like Lars von Trier or Michael Haneke, you would just be dying inside. But like with Quentin Tarantino, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that. This is amazing. Like,
yeah, you almost like are clapping. Yeah. I appreciate that. I appreciate like the kind of aesthetic that the movie has, you know, and it makes me tempted to watch more. But at the same time, I had the feeling that it's like I could watch Kill Bill right now. It's like when we're done with this call, I will just go watch it. You know, like 3 hours of Kill Bill. But probably I think that the next time that I watch it, I would like to watch like both of them like back to back. That I never done. You know, like just allocating like almost 6 hours of my life for just watching them.
You know that like 10 years ago, Tarantino released it was both films, but as it was originally intended to be. So it wasn't so episodic. It was a single film, and they released it in LA, and it played for like 3 weeks. And it had footage and stuff.
Yeah, I remember about that. I remember about hearing about that he was going to be doing it. But at the same time, did he add anything, or did he change anything, or it was a bit more like I just removed like some of the curtains, you know, like about like the end of Kill Bill 1 and just putting all together?
I didn't see it, but I heard it was more connected and tied together, and there were changes and there were additions into the plot that were not in the original films. I don't know. Again, I didn't see it, but I would love to see a 5-hour version of Kill Bill just in one run. Let's watch it all.
Maybe we have there, like a candidate. A candidate for this.
Torrent.
Maybe. I mean, you can just check it out. But in any case, it's not about this. It's like I had a feeling that we have talked almost more about Quentin Tarantino than actually about this movie.
You're completely right, but because I think this film is fun, but it's not significant. So, like, where I consider the importance of this film is the way it influenced future directors. And again, I enjoyed this film. I think it was worth watching, but it's not something where I'd be like, holy shit, have you seen Lady Snowblood? You need to watch this.
I honestly, I think that we're like going into the questions, but once again, I think I had a blast watching this. I had it. I mean, I actually had to split it in 2 days because I was like extremely tired one of the days. I've been like just working like crazy this week, and it was like I can't finish this, and like just falling asleep. It's not that I'm not enjoying it, and it was like I really like the scene when he's hunting down the woman. I love that at the end is that she just hung herself, and there is this point that you think is like, oh, it's just a trap for making her like just get close, but she's not really hung, she's like doing something, and she just gets there is like, I'm going to be like cutting you in half. I don't care. It's like maybe you're dead, maybe you're not. It's about revenge. It's not about like just getting frustrated. I
and
love
she's
that.
with the newspaper guy, right, at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like super horrified. Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck has he done? But I found it super engaging, and I think that I brought this guy and I told him that look, I brought you. It's like I have forgotten how enjoyable Asian or like martial arts or whatever we want to call these like movies from the 80s, from the 70s were. Is that there is something, I don't know, it's like it was the blockbuster back then, but it's something that cinema was becoming like more and more violent. At the worst decade, it was the 80s. The 80s is super gory when it comes to action cinema, and then in the 90s, everything became sanitized.
Yeah, okay, I don't know if I agree with that, but I will say that I do agree with you. I enjoyed this film. I would like to watch more. So if this person who recommended Lady Snowblood has more recommendations, I would happily watch them. It's a super fun, super compelling film. And like you said, it's violent, but it's beautiful in the way it presents violence, as well as martial arts, which it's not as intense with the martial arts as like Kill Bill, but it's just super fun to see this woman who's just like a killing machine go and like exact vengeance on the world for her mother.
Yeah, and I love that most as in our like martial arts movies, they involve like impossible jumps that looks like that they are like just flying. Humans are just flying.
Yeah.
It's just common. It's like that's just something that needs to happen because in Kill Bill it also happens. It may come from some kind of legend that is like, if you know martial arts, you can just jump. I don't know, like 15 feet. It's pretty easy. Don't worry.
That's the that's the magic of martial arts that we as Westerners don't understand.
That's true. So, would you watch it again?
Yeah, I think I would. It's a super fun film. Super fun.
Yeah. Would you watch it? When would you watch it again? I'm just curious about that.
To be honest, in 6 months, I would probably watch it again. Like it's, yeah. I would like to show it to someone, like to my husband. Have you seen this? Let's watch it. And he did watch part of it with me, and then the second half he didn't. So.
No, gotcha. Yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, I watch it again, and I think that this is a movie that it requires so little from you, and it gives back so much enjoyment. That is like it's super easy to actually say, hey, look, I see that I have in this list Lady Snowblood. Have you ever watched it? I will be like watching it again with someone, definitely. Would you recommend it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for me, this is not a movie that I would recommend to my parents, for example. I think it's a bit too bloody, and there is like too much vengeance, and I think that for them, it's like if it's too violent, they feel like completely disengaged. But to anyone else, like if someone tells me, hey, look, I'm looking for some kind of samurai story or action story, but I want to just something from the 70s, is that this would come to my mind. Probably after Enter the Dragon. That is the movie that I watched more times in my whole life.
How does Kill Bill Volume 2 start? She's driving in a convertible and she's talking about the last film and how the critics said she went on a roaring rampage of revenge. It's like exactly this film. Like it's so satisfying, the revenge. It's great.
Yeah. Do you think that you're going to remember this movie?
Yeah, I think I will. I'm not going to remember. Well, the characters weren't super well carved out, in my opinion, and that's one of the reasons I would watch it again, is to catch the things that I missed. But overall, I'll remember for the most part the story, just not specifics.
Yeah, I think that the schematic, or the kind of how the story is separated about holy shit, it's exactly the same thing on Kill Bill. Is that that they are 4 people and they are final bosses, basically. About I need to kill these 4 people. So I think that I will remember that. I will remember the violence being pretty aesthetically pleasing, And I may remember the story because for me it was pretty shocking. Where it's you girls were calling me a hoe, I was trying to get pregnant. It was not just for giggles or for just trying to avoid.
Yeah. It wasn't because
that's pretty dark, man. I mean, it's cool, but it's pretty dark. Is there anything artistic about it?
Yeah. I think it like we said, we don't think it's the film that established this style or genre, but it's probably, it is one of the best that I've seen. And besides Kill Bill, I haven't seen anything in this style. Have you? It's very stylistic. That's the answer.
I agree with that. And I'm trying to think if I have watched anything that is so... I mean, probably you can say that John Woo made a style of this, about just trying to make violence poetic. And then he did Face Off, and people forgot about anything else that he did.
So you have shown me some anime that is as stylistic, I think, like Blue.
Perfect Blue?
Perfect Blue, things like that. But in terms of real action and actors, I think this is pretty unique in terms of what I've seen.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And I cannot think of anything. There has to be something that they use blood in this kind of way. Because at the end of the whole with the name Snowblood is that that there's going to be plenty of scenes that you're going to see how immaculate the snow is and how the blood just disturbs it, with those buckets of blood. And I think that it does an amazing job, on that perspective. That is for the kind of budget that probably they had there, that probably most of it they went to do that ball scene at the end that is so tacky.
So you think that this was a low budget film, and I'm not disagreeing with you, but I would be curious to understand in the context of the early 70s, how much money did they have? Because it did not feel low budget to me. It's pretty solid filmmaking. It was just some of the special effects that I was
I mean, the thing is, I'm checking the Wikipedia. Lady Snowblood was produced on a relatively low budget and filmed with a minimal length of film, 20,000 feet. At one point, a special effect blood spatter went wrong, covering Mako KG in fake blood. That's the only bit of information that we have. And it's wait, something went wrong and she got covered. It's she's covered in blood for most of the movie.
And it's amazing.
Yeah, and that part is great. Do you think that this is a timeless piece?
Yeah, completely. I think the whole avenging the wrongs done to your parents, it's completely timeless.
Parents that you didn't even meet directly.
Yeah, well, that's a very uniquely Asian thing. I think they feel this mantle passed down from their parents that I don't feel as an American. If somebody were to have wronged my dad before I was born, I don't care. But yeah, this is super timeless. I think this movie is very fun. Whether you watch it in 2021 or 2041, it's going to be the same amount of fun.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it really depends I think that we can abstract a bit ourselves. Is that we are not going to be like just putting the same expectations to a movie that was made in the 70s to one that is done like in 2020, for example.
Yeah.
But is that for some people, it may have felt a bit aged. Some of the special effects, as you said, is that you were trying not to be too critical about it. For some people, it may came across as like, this is a bit aged, especially if I compare it with Kill Bill. But not that much, because Kill Bill has the same style as this.
No, you're right. Like, it does age in terms of special effects and in terms of voiceover. So, like, when the master rolls the girl in the barrel down the hill the first time and she gets thrown out, even though he said don't get thrown out, there's this, like, hideous voiceover of her whimpering, and it's like, and it's so clearly a bad voiceover. There are some things that planted firmly into the early 70s, that's true. But in terms of the story is timeless.
Yeah, I agree on that. Is that the story is a story of revenge, is a story of generational, like grudge, and the story of doing the right thing, I guess. So, yeah, from my perspective is that this is completely timeless. I could be watching, or I could be like telling someone like 20 years in the future, I could be that person. That someone tells me, I have a podcast about cinema, and say like, did you watch Lady Snowblood? Because I'm checking your selection and it sucks. I'm going to be like giving you an easy ball, slow ball. Would you turn this into a TV show?
So I don't have the creative skills to turn it into a TV show, but I think if it were done well enough, yeah, I would tune in for this every week for a half hour as we see her like continuing to commit revenge. I feel like this is the stuff that soap operas are made of. So,
of revenge and serial killing.
Well, it's definitely revenge, and it's so episodic anyway. Like, we see her go after each of the 4 people. Like, this could be an 8-episode miniseries on HBO. It could easily translate into a television show for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that this is an interesting format that I wouldn't mind watching more. I found like the main actress that she did like a really good job. Is that she transmitted a lot with her face. There is like a lot of close-ups, and something that the movie says, but at the same time they don't develop, is that she was supposed to don't have any kind of feelings because she was going to be an asura and just get imbalanced. So it's like a bit more of a demon. But like, she was not like that. She was human, and she had feelings. Is that we never see like real feelings. It's a bit more. It's like, well, maybe she does. That maybe they would like to develop a bit more. You'd be a bit more of a compelling story. I think that, as you said, is that this is a 90 minutes movie or 100. It's not long. And I think if they had like a bit more time, they could have done more. There is true that Tarantino, as he has like a bit more of frantic storytelling, that I think that's his strength, about like just making compelling and frantic storytelling. I like he can just give you like in 5 minutes like a backstory that is like, this has been amazing. He's like, I care about this character.
But I would also argue that the fact that Tarantino made the bride human by showing her have such intense emotions about the daughter, that is something that this film lacked. And I don't know that it's a lesser film because of it, but I will say that the bride is more three-dimensional than Miko in this film.
Yeah, but just think that Miko is actually just dreaded for committing vengeance, and that's wrong. I would like to actually just see more of the struggle. I think that we could have done like something interesting about like her trying to come into, I don't have to just letting my soul be consumed by this. And they only like subtlety mention something, when they're talking about like, but she had feelings. Is like, I think that they could have done a bit more of an internal struggle, but at the end is that they wanted, this is based on a manga from the 70s, is that the story is about vengeance. And is that there has to be people mutilated and a lot of blood. That's the only thing that we care about. Everything else is like, sure, yeah, you want to throw like something in there is fine, about like the reality of that age in Japan. But everything else is like revenge. That's the only thing that matters.
Yes, I agree. And that's the point of the film, and the fact that it has this like singular focus, I think makes it great. But I also think it limits it to how complex a film it is. Like, this is just a story of revenge. That's it. It's super satisfying, but in terms of character development or plot lines, it's limited.
And actually, that connects me to the next question: that do you think that this movie could have been better? So, from your perspective, is yes, that it could have made like a bit more of a three-dimensional main character.
I do think they lacked character development both in the 4 people she was meant to kill. I never saw them as individuals. And I thought while watching this how amazing it was what Quentin Tarantino did for us to focus on Lucy Liu, Vivica A. Fox, I can't remember the name of the actor who plays Bill, and Michael Madsen?
Cardan?
Yeah, David Carradine.
Yeah, David Carradine.
So they were such distinct individuals with such unique characteristics that I would have liked if the filmmakers of Lady Snowblood had spent a little bit more time developing who these villains are and why I should hate them.
Well, I mean, we know why we should hate them. They actually give us like several stories, not only about like the rape and murdering, of their parent, well, of her father and her brother, but also because of the scam that they did on the village. So,
and let's not forget Daryl Hannah.
That's true. Daryl Hannah is amazing. Yeah, but I agree with you. I think that this movie could have been better, but it's like for just the time that it was done, is like I'm still like pretty impressed. I mean, this is not supposed to be like a character development kind of movie. This is supposed to be like a manga adaptation. That's basically, I started watching like one of the specials from the Criterion channel, but it was a bit more of a, we already know the actress, that her name is actually the name of the actress is Meiko Kaji.
Yeah, I couldn't tell from the IMDb.
Yeah, and Yuki Kashima is the character. So Meiko, she was like already like a upcoming actress, and I think that they came to a point is that, we want to do like something with her, and then this manga like pop up, and they said, actually this could be a good fit for actually like an actress like this.
So I haven't read a ton of manga, but I have read some comic books. But I mean, even comic books, they set up characters as so unique and memorable that's what I found lacking from this story. Like, yes, she went and killed guy number 1, guy number 2, guy number 3, woman number 4, but I never really saw them as like individuals.
But the thing is that you cannot compare like mangas or comics, from the 70s to now. It's like we have like albeit we have like terrible taste in many things nowadays. At the same time, some things have been like more sophisticated. It's like, it's true, like literature had like centuries to just evolve to the point that we are here. So there has been like always good books, from 3 centuries ago to now. But when it actually comes to manga, or comics in general, is that they were in their infancy back then. So it's like in Japan, it was exactly that. It's like you just do a samurai story, and this was like probably like surprising about like, well, it's actually like a woman. It's not like a male that is just doing like a vengeance or whatever, So I think one manga that I read like from the 60s or 70s, let me just say, Lone Wolf and Calf. This was actually from 1970. So it's like it was like extremely common to just have like this style of manga back then. So it was like just popping it non-stop. As right now, all the styles, they come from high schoolers that they have to fight some kind of evil force, and they have like a power that they didn't know about, and they are the chosen one, and I fucking hate everything. Every single manga that comes with that aesthetic is that this used to be what they had. It was like the trend.
So I don't know again a ton about manga, but I did watch Sailor Moon, so I think I have a good idea about
what is it about. Okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and Dragon Ball. Those two is
Dragon Ball.
That's complete. Yeah,
I got it.
So I think that problem may come a bit more from the limited runtime and also the source material that you're working with. But honestly, if I had to shoot this movie and I hadn't watched Kill Bill, I think that this is absolutely fine. I wouldn't touch anything. For a movie from the 70s, it's like, if we remake it now, yeah, of course, we know like way more. It's like we have become like more sophisticated, not only on the manga side, but also on, on movies in general.
And we often have the discussion about like substance versus style, and we're both like, okay, sacrificing substance for style.
Yeah.
And this film absolutely has style. Like that director, he had a voice, like a distinct voice about what he wanted to show. So good for him.
Yeah. So what are we watching next? Or do we have anything else to say about Lady Snowblood?
We have to score it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. Sorry, this was my pick. So this is your turn for the scoring.
So I've gone back and forth between a 6.5 and a 7. Because of this conversation, I'm going to say a 7.
Okay.
I think it's a good movie. It's better than average, but ultimately, looking at it, it's not like a transcendental film. It's always going to be a fun film, but it's never going to be an important film.
Yeah, no, I can see that. My score is actually, it was going to be a 7 initially, and I actually, the conversation, I'm going with a 7.5. It's exactly the same kind of reasoning. That is like, I don't think that is something that was genre defining. And there is like something that I say is, okay, someone else just got all your elements and they elevated it in another movie, and they made like a better version of you. It's like, I shouldn't be like just crediting you for what someone else did with your elements. So that's the reason why I was asking you if we were living in a world without Kill Bill. I think that I would still give this like a 7.5 because it was extremely enjoyable.
I completely agree. So 5 is perfectly mediocre. This is better than a mediocre film. Like it's got problems, sure. There are things I would want to see more, but it's a good film.
Yeah, definitely. So what are we watching next?
We're going to watch the 2020 Russian film called Dear Comrades. I don't know a ton about this film, but I did read about it in the New York Times today. It's supposed to be very good. We have spoken about how we want to watch more Russian films. I don't think we've watched any bad Russian films, so let's just see. It's a modern Russian film. It is in black and white, and it takes place during the Soviet Union. This could be awful. It could be great.
So you're saying that Stalker is not a bad movie?
It's not a bad movie.
Thank you.
Perfectly mediocre.
Oh my god! I'm going to make you watch those 3 hours again.
That's fine. I'll watch it again. Convince me. Talk me into that being a better film than it is.
Okay, cool. But yeah, anything else to say about Lady Snowblood?
Overall, I appreciate it. I appreciate you recommending me a lot more Asian film than I typically watch. So I appreciated experiencing this. It's a good movie. I would recommend it. Yeah, that's it.
I have a question. Usually Asian movies, they're criticized for being like too slow. Did you feel that this movie was slow at any point?
At any point? There might have been a small period where I was like, okay, move on to the next thing. But I feel like this had this very quick pace. No, I would say overall it's very compelling throughout the majority of it.
Yeah, I would say the same. There is the riff is like it never stops. It just keeps going and keeps giving. That is amazing. But yeah, so next time, dear comrades, and for now we can just stop here. So to those whatever number of people that they don't have anything else better to do with their lives than listening to us, thank you so much for listening.
And wash your hands.
Bye.